Yeah. I would have to think that that would be quite a burden just to kind of process as a child. If your mom telling you that that you all, and if I heard you correctly, did you say that you would be homeless?
Yeah, like that we were
Okay.
gonna that they couldn't afford the mortgage and that we were gonna lose the house and stuff like that. So,
Mm. Yeah.
yeah.
Wow.
Everyday people working 9 to 5, saving up that money, trying to survive, investing in the future, trying to be wise. We're gonna be money heroes. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Nik Johnson, host of Everyday Money Heroes, and I've reached early retirement. I'm here to provide information on how to obtain financial independence and inspire you through sharing stories of everyday people who are turning knowledge into freedom.
That hustle, always reaching for the sky. We're gonna be money heroes. Never gonna shy.
Hello and welcome to Everyday Money Heroes. We provide information and inspiration to people of all ages to take control of their financial journey. I'm your host, Nik Johnson, and today we have Finance Rox. Before we get into our conversation with Rox, I'm going to ask you, if you have not, to like, share, and subscribe to our channel if you're watching us on YouTube. Also, if you are listening to this episode on your platform of choice, that you would follow us there as well. And now back to our guest, Finance Rox. A little bit about her before we get going. She is the ultimate example of what happens when technical expertise meets disciplined habit change. She is a habit-focused money coach who specializes in debt reduction and saving. Her own journey is nothing short of heroic. She successfully paid off $49,000 in debt, stayed the course to buy a home, $210,000 in cash, and on a mission to reach Coast 5 by age 39, all while sharing practical tips with a fun and spunky attitude everyone enjoys. Please welcome to our podcast, Finance Rox. Hello, Rox.
Hi, Nick. How are you? Thank you for having
Uh,
me on.
just fine. Thank you. And I asked our guest to keep me honest. Did I misspeak on anything when I opened up there with you?
I think you did a fantastic job.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. So if there's a backstory as far as how I mediated our guests, I like to share that. So here's a backstory on how I met Rox. And interestingly, I still consume a lot of FI content. And what happened is that I was looking at Camp FI, their channel, and your presentation came up there, and I was like, oh, I was like, that's interesting. And so then what happened is that somehow or another, as I typically go down the rabbit hole, I saw you on Heavy Metal Money. I believe I saw you on there. So I was like, you know what? I was like, I think this individual has a great story. I probably should reach out to her to see if there's a way we could connect. And so I'm digging through my phone a couple days later, and I was searching on the word finance because I was trying to send someone a link to an event I was doing. And when I did it, I saw Finance Rox pop up in my contacts. I was like, well, hold on. I was like, so then I go through and I start thinking, I'm like, Finance Rox. I'm like, our paths had to cross. And then I finally remember where our paths crossed. And I have not told you this. Okay, so our paths crossed this past year at FinCon. And if I'm not mistaken, we were at they have these niche meetups. And I believe you came to one about financial independence, if I'm not mistaken. And I think we were chatting, and it must have been very brief because they kind of hit us in the corner, and it was just it was a whole lot going on there. So I think we only really talked like for a brief second, but apparently we exchanged contact information. I did a horrible job at following up, so I apologize for that. So I think that is our origin story there, Rock. Does any of that ring a bell? But you probably don't remember you talking to me.
No, no, I remember you. No, I remember you. It was very brief, and I think it
Okay.
was at the niche roundtable meetups, whatever. So,
Mhm.
yeah, I think it was like right towards the end of the session, so we didn't get to chat a whole lot. But
Yeah.
I am glad that I was suddenly everywhere and you had to have me as a guest channel.
I really had to, I just could not, I couldn't get enough. So I'm so happy that you're here with us. So one thing I would like to do is just kind of level set here because everyone on their journey is in different places. So let's go ahead and let's do a quick five snapshot. So where are you on your financial independence journey? You could be just getting out the blocks. You could be, just spinning the first curve, head towards the finish line. Where are you right now when it comes to that, rocks?
Yeah, so I have been saying that I am Coast Fi. So for the viewers, if anyone doesn't know, just have enough saved for retirement that I don't need to save anymore. But I was actually just looking at it recently, and I'm about 91% of the way to my
Oh,
FI number.
okay.
Yeah.
Congrats.
Thank you. Yeah, and I rented a two-bedroom apartment, and so I have only need for one.
Mm.
And, I'm either going to downsize to a one bedroom or get a roommate, and so I should be fine basically any day now. So,
Oh, that is great. I know some great anticipation there when it comes to that. So, congratulations to
yeah.
you on that. So,
Yeah, thank you.
one of the things I like to ask you is I know with me, when it comes to money, I was always very interested in the way that it works. As a young child, I always tried to figure out ways that, what was interest and how to read stock tickers and things like that. So, when it comes to you, what's the earliest memories that you had of money? And do you feel as though it still influences you the way that you spend and save money now?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I am a lifer as well. I don't know if that's the right term, but yeah, been interested in it since I was little. It
Mhm.
was always pretty clear to me that my parents didn't quite know what they were doing with
Okay.
money.
Hmm.
So some of my early memories were, I mean, oddly enough, my sister had a collection of Susan B. Anthony coins.
No, okay.
I think I got in trouble one time for taking some and taking them down to buy penny candy at like the corner store. But then, yeah, I remember like food stamps and like WIC
Hmm.
coupons. Those are
Okay.
some of my early, I don't know if maybe they were just more colorful than like regular money, so
Hmm.
that like they stood out to me. But
Okay.
yeah, I was
Um,
thinking about that.
I have you by this very mostly salt and pepper beard that I have. I have you by several years, and you are correct. It used to be a lot more colorful. They almost look
Yeah.
like Monopoly money. So I remember that as a kid. So your memory does recall correctly there.
Okay, good.
So yeah, you're right on point with that. So I know as far as myself when I was a kid, my memories as far as money, it was very interesting. So back then there was not it wasn't direct deposit back then when I was a kid. So I remember my dad was a truck driver. And so this is kind of how I used to see things happen. I remember my dad would work. He would come home. He would be given a paper check and he would literally just kind of hand it over to my mom. And that literally, I knew that my dad worked and I knew he handed it over to my mom. And that's all I knew. So really, at that particular point, it really kind of baffled me. That I was like, okay, I know things have to happen after this. And I know that she would go and she would cash it, but unfortunately, it wasn't like we had bank accounts and stuff like that. So I remember like she would go to like the corner store or something like that, and she would like cash checks like that, which is horrible right now, which is sad that people still do that to this day. But definitely, that's the case, and so that still kind of forms a lot of things that happen to us as kids and as adults. And so we have those kind of initial memories that you had, but in between those thoughts as a kid and you right now, there has been, a great deal of progression when it comes to, your knowledge when it comes around money. I know that you're helping people right now. So along that journey, what really happened to have you to be an individual right now who one of your kind of core I feel as though missions is to enable individuals to be more financially literate and to also, they're to really guide themselves along their financial journey.
Yeah. I think it's kind of, I don't know if this is a weird thing to say, but for me, it's almost less about helping people and more about like eliminating financial stress in the world. Like I feel like that's
Hmm.
my battle is like
Okay.
I really did not enjoy that myself.
Mhm.
And so it's almost like a personal vendetta against that. So, I
Okay.
want to help people along the way so that way they don't have to experience that same kind of like stress and, struggle. And I was lucky. I do have grandparents with money. And so it's
Mhm.
like whenever my family ran out, they would help us out. And like,
Okay.
they always said it was the last time they were going to help us. And, being a kid, I didn't realize that that was not true. But
Hmm.
so it was like I never experienced like homelessness or anything like that. we had a house that my grandparents had helped with, but it
Mm.
was things like my mom would like cry at the grocery store and
Oh,
like
wow.
tell me that we were going to be homeless and we couldn't afford things. And so, yeah, it's a weird kind of like insecurity thing more than like
Hmm.
the actual like experience of it.
Oh,
So, really more the
yeah.
stress of it is my aim.
Yeah. I would have to think that that would be quite a burden just to kind of process as a child. If your mom telling you that that you all, and if I heard you correctly, did you say that you would be homeless?
Yeah, like that we were
Okay.
gonna that they couldn't afford the mortgage and that we were gonna lose the house and stuff like that. So,
Mm. Yeah.
yeah.
Wow. Okay. As far as has your parents, at least in your mind, or from what you can observe, if they're still with you, ha are they in a better situation now when it comes to money, or is it are they still kind of have those same habits?
Um, they're kind of still in the same situation. I think that it kind of comes down to like I feel like it's human nature to not do things unless you kind of have to.
Hmm.
And strangely enough, both of their parents, I think there was kind of an enabling relationship with money where, they're bailing them out and so they don't really need to take it seriously. So,
Hmm.
I do kind of have conflicting feelings on like giving and generosity because of that. Like it can be so good and so helpful to people, to
Hmm.
give money, but I definitely saw the downside of that, like the not taking responsibility for your life, that can come as the result of being enabled in that way.
Yeah, yeah, it's that enablement. I know I have individuals in my life that I am. I like to think that I was the last resort, but a lot of times I feel like I'm the first phone call.
Mhm.
And I tell, and I'm to the point now where I'm like, you know what, out of the love that I have for these individuals, I try to help them. But oftentimes, I feel like I could be doing more of a disservice by enabling them by saying, hey, you know what? Sometimes, you've got to go through the fire to realize that what you're doing isn't working. So I completely understand that. I have my mom, I think maybe around 4 or 5 years ago, I had been talking with my mom, and my mom's like, hey, she's like, I need you to I need to open up me a stock account. It's like you do. So she finally does have one. Now, granted, every now and then my mom will say, hey, you know what, I need to get something out of there. But I'm like, okay, well, like at least, she has started the muscle of savings. So I'm really happy about that. So
Yeah. You mentioned at the beginning of that question as well that, you were interested in investing, it sounds like pretty early on in your
mm,
life.
hmm.
And yeah, I just think it's so interesting because like some people like really go the route of income, like that's the answer to financial problems. Some people go investing, and then some people go like saving and frugality. Like I feel
Hmm.
like I'm saving and frugality. That was like my answer to the question of like, how do I solve this problem? And so kind of whenever I'm like managing things, like I feel like that's my area more. And I enjoy like talking about investing. I've learned it along the way and like how to get your income up. But I would say I'm definitely like saving frugality is like my go-to
Mm. Yeah,
instinct.
that you are correct in that, Rocks, because as a kid, I saw people who worked all the time. I was like, apparently working just ain't the answer. My dad works, my uncle works, my aunties work.
Um,
I was like, so it has to be something else. So in my mind, I realized, okay, well, there has to be an investing component in it that we're missing. So that's what made me so interested in understanding the investment part. I didn't have a whole lot of individuals in my life who were entrepreneurs, so I didn't have, business owners and things like that. So all I ever saw was like, you just go work. So I'm like, it might be a little bit more than that, And I granted, that was the thinking of a 8, 9 year old, but I think it's still kind of on par, even in in my age now that you can work, but you needed a little bit more. And so as we discuss, just kind of working in occupation, what um, have you done up until this point, Roxy? Did you go to college? What exactly is your occupation? Have you changed careers? What exactly does that look like for you?
yeah, so I decided early on, back in the day, they tell you that you have to go to school basically
Yeah.
in order to do anything. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that was one of the best like silver lining things about my situation is since I knew early on my parents weren't going to be able to help me, I needed to figure it out. Like I worked very hard in school.
Hmm.
I did great, in like high school and got myself ready for college, got grant money and whatnot. I
Hmm.
did end up with about 25,000 of student loan debt from that, but
Okay.
I got my degree in accounting, finance,
Hmm.
and started in accounting and finance. Learned very quickly I did not enjoy it a whole lot.
Okay.
Not to rag on myself, but kind of boring.
Okay.
But yeah, and then so I mostly worked as a financial analyst slash data management for about 10 years. And then about 5 years ago, I quit to do my Finance Rox stuff just part-time.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, I don't make a lot of money doing it, but more of a passion project.
Yeah, but I think first of all, to me, a couple things to take out of that. First of all, is that you only had $25,000 worth of student loans, and I
Mhm.
know that there are. I was told also that part of the way that you need to do is make sure to go to college and you get a degree, and it'll assist you. And so, unfortunately, a lot of individuals do that, and they end up with a large amount of debt. Some of them end up with a large amount of debt and no degree because they did not finish their coursework. And then sadly, also there are individuals that even when they feel like um, they have gotten what they needed, they might start with a particular career that really aligned with their degree. Like, you know what? I don't think I even really like this. And I think about it as we make these decisions as typically 18, 19-year olds that we go once we transition from high school and we get ready to go down this path in which we would assume that we will want to do this for the rest of our working lives. And we then acquire this large amount of debt to support this dream that we have. And then we realize that, I really don't like this. And me thinking about who I was at I graduated when I was 17. Who I was at 17 years old, there's no way I would want that guy making decisions for 40, 50-year-old Nick. But unfortunately, that's what happens. We just got to do.
Mm.
So,
Mhm.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, one of the things that you made mention to is that, you're very intentional. You knew that you were in a situation where your parents weren't going to necessarily be able to cash flow your degree. So you went ahead and you took steps to make sure that you were able to go ahead and go and do that. Um, as much as I enjoyed money and how it worked as a kid, it amazed me that I realized after some time, like I didn't know what a student loan was. When I was a kid, I didn't. I was like, I just thought, okay, we got to have the money to pay for it. So I was like, okay. I was like, I knew about scholarships. And so I was like, okay, I can either get a scholarship or I can pay for it some kind of way. I had no idea what a student loan was. And so what happened is that I knew my parents did not have the money for it at that particular point. So I had a music degree. So I was going to actually go and do that. And through several things, I actually did not use my music scholarship. I ended up going into the military. But when I got out the military, I went to college at that particular point. So I still didn't have student loans, which was great because just with that, just kind of one decision, it allowed me to at least be at zero, and not
Yeah.
have to kind of dig myself out. So that was great. So you went down that road, Rox, and a few years ago, you started Finance Rox. And so, for those who may not be aware of Finance Rox, you can just share us a little bit about what it is.
Yeah. So definitely helping people that are struggling with finance, like
Mhm.
lower middle class type is my target audience. But yeah, I do a lot of work helping people like learn to manage their cash flow, budgeting. Since I am a certified habit coach, the clients I have through that app that I use are all like daily check-ins. So
Okay.
it's very like detailed of like, what did you spend money on today? And they,
Mm.
send me their list. And then we do monthly like tracking their budgets and total spending and that kind of thing. So I really like the nitty gritty of like, where's the money going? How can we get a handle on it? And then on the day-to-day basis, we talk about the individual habits, like, okay, you're spending money on, getting lunch out. So what can we do in order to get this habit in there of like packing your lunch the night before?
Mm.
So like very detailed level.
Okay. So since you're a certified habit coach, Ross, what would you say are some of the habits that you've observed by individuals who have, a really solid financial foundation versus those who don't?
Yeah, so I think people that are good at money, there's some kind of time. They have some
Mm,
kind of process or habit of like leaving time in between the impulse, the want to buy something, and then actually like buying it. I like
mm.
to call it like purchase procrastination,
Okay.
leveraging procrastination for something good, since I
Yeah, it's
maybe
positive.
struggle with that.
No, that's a
Um,
positive.
Yeah, and I think that like the act of writing down what you want, I think it helps manage that impulse so much because it's like not just trying to like push it down and ignore it. It's like honoring it, like because the things that you want matter. They should matter. And
Mhm,
so try not to just like push that down all the time. I think being grateful as well, being grateful
mhm,
for like the things that you buy. A lot of my clients I notice will like one time this girl said, "Oh yeah, I haven't been on a trip in like years." And I was like, "Just a month ago, you were, you know what, you went and visited family, you had a great time, you spent some money, like." And she said, "Oh, well, that doesn't count because that's visiting family." Like,
Oh,
and
okay.
so, it's things like that where it's like the more grateful you feel, kind of the less need, I think, to spend money.
Mm,
So, like making sure that you acknowledge the things that you're grateful for. And even things like if you go out and get food, right? If you spend, $20 on a dinner out, like some portion of that is a need, right? Like
mm,
we need to eat, but some portion of it is, fun and should be celebrated. So it's little things like that where I think that like people that are good with money kind of are
mm,
more in tune with the gratitude side of it. Um, People who are bad at money, I think that kind of like my parents is like the boom and bust. Like they would get money and they would
mhm,
spend it. And then like being in deprivation mode, kind of affected when they got money again, because then it was like they legit needed to go buy things, but then they were out shopping. And so then it was like kind of just a little reprieve, like the psychology of like spending it when you have it. But then they were actually quite frugal when they were low or close to zero. So it's like
mm.
they knew how to do it, they just weren't doing it at the right time.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting that just kind of last piece you shared that they had the ability to do that. Just that, like I said, it's kind of that boomer buzz. But two of the things that I picked up that you said, first of all, was purchase procrastination. Now, I'm probably an extreme to that because I feel like I should only buy things twice a year. That's on Black Friday and Prime Day. That's like the only two times because I want everything to be on a deep discount when I buy it. So that's probably a bit extreme, but definitely, you want to procrastinate on those things as far as separating the actual purchase from the impulse. So I completely agree with you on that. And I've heard that some individuals will use a tactic of like, hey, just let's just put it inside of the cart for now and just step away. Do you feel like you still feel the need for that? And also you mentioned kind of reframing some of the things that we're doing as well that you share as far as one of the clients that you had that they actually went out of town, but they didn't really count that as a trip because they were just visiting folks, so that's extremely important that we frame things the right way. So I completely get that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think those are good ones. Another thing I've noticed, like people have a habit of money being the answer to all their problems. So like throwing money at any kind of problem. One time I had a client and I was like, "Okay, you make a pretty decent income. What can we do to save money?" And he said, "I'll buy a Keurig so that I don't have to go out for coffee. I'll buy a bike so that I don't have to drive my car as much, and I'll buy, what was it? There was one other thing." I was like, "Oh, your savings list looks more like a shopping list." Um, and I think that's a habit for people, right? It's like
Yeah.
the cue would be there's some problem, and then the behaviors, how can I throw money at it? So
Hmm.
getting more resourceful and creative about how you solve your problems in life and
Hmm.
being aware of when money is the answer, when you're using that as because there are absolutely times when throwing money at a problem is the right and best solution. But
Hmm.
yeah, I think getting more creative with what else can I do to accomplish this goal other than spending.
Yeah. Not throwing money at a problem is, I knew someone and that was his, if you, when he, when this individual, would pass away, probably on their tombstone, will read, "Here lies this person threw money at a problem." And it was okay when there was a substantial amount of money around to do that. But what happened is that things started to get lean, things changed in the business in which they were at, and they kept the same mentality of being able to throw money at problems. But then one day they looked inside of this, this huge barrel that they had, and they realized it was nothing left there. So now it's like, okay, well, what do I do now? Because I'm so used to throwing money at a problem. How can I now resolve issues? And my advice to that individual is that, that just means that now you got to start planning.
Yeah.
Because, oftentimes, an excess of money can cover a multitude of problems. And so if you're like want to do stuff last minute, or if you're not, very mindful in planning things, if you just have deep enough pockets, you can get away with a lot of stuff. But, what happens when, that comes to an end and you're tasked with having to try to not throw money at that problem? So I completely understand that.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I think about rocks is that we're recording this in December. And so, of course, resolution time is going to be coming soon. And so I'm someone who likes to really dig into the statistics. And Vanguard shared the statistic that 75% of Americans fell short of their savings and spending resolutions in 2025. And so when it comes to setting goals and action planning, what do you feel like most people are missing that's keeping it from being successful?
Yeah. I'm a big goal setter. I
Okay,
enjoy that.
now are you a planner? Are you an individual who have planners? Because I have some friends who are serious planners. Do you have your 2026 planner already?
Yes. Yep. I love planners. I do some on like my YouTube channel. I'll do like over the desk shots of my planner and share some of the stuff that's
Oh,
in there. So, yes, love planning, love goal setting. And I think that one of the biggest things is like not action planning at all, really, just setting the
mm,
goal and having it be like an outcome-based goal instead
mhm,
of a behavioral or process type goal,
mhm,
or at least having a combination of both, right? So like a very common one is like, oh, I want to save $1,000. Is that a
mhm.
process or an outcome? That's the outcome. What
Right.
does save $1,000 mean? Where does it come from? Like, I think that taking the next step of action planning that is like very commonly overlooked because
Mm,
you can't just save $1,000. That's not even a thing. Like,
mm,
you might say, oh, okay, I'm gonna, skip going to the restaurant right now. That would be $20 that then you can transfer. It's like getting into the nitty gritty of it.
mm,
So one prompt that I like to use is what habits do I need in order to achieve this goal? Like what daily habits, weekly, monthly, quarterly? What habits do I need to do this? And then asking yourself, what specifically am I willing to give up to get this goal?
mm,
So, $1,000 as a savings goal, that's a fine intention to have, but like getting into the nitty gritty of, okay, what does that actually mean? My goals are actually will be I'm only going to go out to eat once every 2 weeks. I'm going to track it on my whiteboard. I'm only going to spend this dollar amount. I'm not going to have an app or a dessert or a drink, just the entree. Like, kind of getting into like the very specifics of how are you going to do that?
okay, I got you. So, um, what you're sharing there with me, Rox, makes me think about in my corporate life, we used to talk about leading and lagging indicators.
Mm.
And it's almost like, if I can recall this correctly, a lagging is almost like it would be that $1,000 savings. But that leading indicator is almost those actions that you shared. Okay, all right, I'm not going to do the app. I'm not going to do the dessert. I'm only going to go during happy hour. I'm always going to use a coupon. Just stuff like that that we can do to give us that direction where we need to go to actually be able to achieve that. So,
Yeah, no, that's great. And yeah, I actually just to be clear, I did not come up with the terms outcome-based goals or
mhm,
process behavioral. Like, yeah, it's
mhm,
a common um, you know, uh strategy for
mhm,
goal setting and accomplishing things. And, I think it's good to acknowledge that right now, all of your money is going somewhere, right? Like
mhm,
if you're living paycheck to paycheck, 100% of that money is going somewhere right now. So it's
mhm,
not just like you're going to get $1,000 and get to keep it, right? Like something that you're currently doing needs to be different in order to have that $1,000. So like
mhm,
it's just with your time, right? Like you have 24 hours a day. If you want to do something new, well, what am I doing that I need to give up to get it? Like really thinking about the trade-offs there for
mhm.
how to accomplish something new.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think that makes a lot of sense there as far as, we just have to make sure that we're looking at the trade-offs and ultimately understand that, okay, if I want to be successful, I can continue doing what I'm doing, or I can really evaluate everything that I've been doing and really figure out, okay, what can I do to try to achieve that? So I'm completely agree with you on that. And
Yeah.
as and
Yeah.
it's interesting that you make reference to the $1,000 because one of the biggest things that I encourage individuals to do outside of initially doing a net worth kind of calculation on themselves when they're first trying to get started is to try to build an emergency fund. Okay. And I've heard you refer to your emergency fund as being dead to you. So individuals should think about, okay, when you come up with your emergency fund, it needs to be dead to them. And now that's a powerful tool, I think, in thinking about protecting savings. But what was the specific turning point in your journey where this strategy of psychologically kind of separating like really came to you? And, when it clicked and you moved from being tempted to spend money to genuinely not even considering it.
Yeah. It's a good question. So, like I said, when it's like income investing or savings, like savings has always been kind of my natural go-to.
Mm,
When I was in my worst spot financially, it was an income problem. I was not
mm,
working.
mhm,
Um, so I think that the balance as far as like the temptation to save or spend, because I do enjoy spending. I
mhm.
like spending money.
Okay.
But I think that the source of my problem was really more like neglect or dissociation from like, oh yeah, I'm not working, I'm stressed out, I don't want to look at my checking account.
Uh,
Um, so I think that like looking at it was part of it, just kind of
mm,
ignoring or neglecting that.
mhm,
But then there was definitely, as far as like the temptation to avoid spending that, a process and a time frame where I adjusted to seeing amounts in my checking that I knew were off limits.
mm.
So that absolutely did happen. I would
Yeah.
like track my cash flow and like anytime I saw my balance, I would automatically subtract off what like my new zero was or like the amount that's like dead to me.
Mhm,
So like getting into that habit, I definitely had like a sticky note reminder on my desk for a while of like, okay, the amount of money that I have available to spend is not equal to my checking account balance or the cash I have. Like,
mm,
really trying to separate those two things of how much do I have available to spend and how much is not available to spend.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good approach. One of the first things that my wife and I did when we got married, we got two accounts. One account was like I almost want to call it like it's like the household function fund. So everything that went in that was for the household as far as, okay, this is what we used to pay mortgage and things like that. Um, and to that particular account, we only had a checkbook for it. That was it. The reason why we had checkbook was like we wanted to make as much friction as we could in between being able to get that money out. So we didn't want to have like a debit card, any easy way to just like hit write a check or do whatever. So we did that. But then the other fund that we had, was available to us. And after a while, we didn't even really think of that as like just real money. We only looked at the money that we could actually spend. And actually, we used to call that money imaginary money. Like, hey,
Mm,
it just kind of, it's one of those things. We did that. So it's just really important for us just mentally to be able to, like you said, separate, understanding that this money is for a particular purpose and this money is for an emergency. Now, granted, we have to think about what we're defining as an emergency, because a lot of times we can be a little liberal with that. So, how, Rox, do you define a emergency with your clients and just in your personal life?
I love this question so much.
Okay.
I personally am great at coming up with excuses. And so I have had to be extremely strict with myself about
Okay.
that. So I go to like, I've come to the point where I'm like, my vehicle, not a necessity. Like,
Hmm.
even when I was working, like people existed before cars. And it's really just to manage the that argument in my head of like, oh, I need this, I need this, I need this. Um,
Mm,
Telling myself I don't need it or I need to find some other way has been very helpful to me. So, kind
mm.
of, getting to like the bare minimum viable spending, basically,
Okay.
like minimum viable product. Like,
Hmm.
so. Like I said, when you go out to eat, some portion of that is need and some portion of it
Hmm.
is want. So, um, and I know that driving to work is an indirect expense for living. But for my own benefit and for my clients, I think questioning that as much as possible has been helpful. And that does tie into gratitude as well, right? Because then it's
Hmm.
like, okay, well, yeah, I'm buying this car and I somewhat need it for transportation, but a lot of it is
Hmm.
want. And so I'm grateful that I get to have this car that I have.
Mm, yeah, and I know oftentimes when we think about it, like I said, we can justify anything as being an emergency if we really want to, and so we need to have a real strict framework around what it is. So, for instance, you might say, okay, this trip is an emergency. I'll only be this age once in my life. I want to do it. Now, granted, typically going on a trip is not emergency, but if it's a situation where you need to go on a trip, say for instance, there's a loved one who's gotten hospitalized or there is a funeral that you have to attend. Yeah, I can kind of see, that being considered an emergency, but just saying that, there's a really good deal on a room in some tropical location and it's the middle of the winter, you want to go to a warmer place. That's not really an emergency. That's a nice to have. So
Yeah.
I completely understand that. And so,
Yeah. Go
yeah,
ahead.
no, that's fine. I didn't know if you had anything else you want to piggyback on that.
Yeah.
That's about that.
I think setting a time frame for it's like, I'm going to be focused on finance for this period of time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that helps as well because then it's not like, I didn't know how long it was going to take me to get my finances in order. Like
Mm-hmm.
when I was a kid, I was like, I'm going to do whatever it takes for the next 50 years and suffer and
Mm-hmm.
it'll be bad. But then at least the next 50 years after that, I'll be okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll be able to have fun. So, and thankfully it didn't take that long. And I think for most people that it wouldn't take that long, but I think having a time frame helps with that as far as like, oh, okay, is this an emergency? Yes or no kind of thing. Cause it's like, oh, well, I said food, water, and shelter for this many,
Mm-hmm.
years. Um, and then like letting that kind of be the guide of it. Because I'm one of those finance people who honestly, I don't care about money. Like I want to
Mm-hmm.
have money so that I can do other things in my life, so that I
Mm-hmm.
can have a like calm, relaxing life, and so that I can have fun with like people that I love. And it did work out for me. Like I absolutely cheaped out on like holiday, Christmas gifts, birthday gifts for a couple of years
Mm-hmm.
with the promise to myself and to them that it would end at some point. And then
Mm-hmm.
I was able to like take my three little brothers to the Grand Canyon, which was
No,
amazing.
nice.
So, yeah. I think that like people have such a hard time prioritizing finances, right? Because there's like, I don't know, it's like socially frowned upon, right? To like
Mm-hmm.
prioritize finance over things, but it's very important to me to have emergency fund money in order to like go and visit sick friends and family and to be there for
Mm-hmm.
them. And
Mm-hmm.
so, yes, absolutely prioritizing those.
Yeah, and it comes with a peace of mind also. And what I tell individuals is that once you have your emergency fund, you know, that's kind of it. Once it's there, hopefully you don't need it anymore. If you want to know, if you have, I don't know, 6 months worth of, living expenses, if you want to build on a little bit, you can. But once it's done, it's done. Then you can go off and start using that for other things and other purposes, where there's like, hey, you want to start a secondary fund for maybe like to go on that trip that you want to go on, or you can then start to work on, paying down debt or whatever you want to do. But just kind of once the emergency fund is there, it's there. Enjoy the peace of mind that can bring people can get from that. Because I tell them all the time, when you don't have an emergency fund, it is like a snowball. That okay,
Mhm.
it's something just as simple as that. Okay, you don't have an emergency fund. Something happens with your vehicle. Something happens with your vehicle. Then you can't get to work. Then you can't get to work. Then you start falling behind on your bills. And it's like this ugly, just kind of thing that just builds up over and over again. So that emergency fund is important. It is there for a reason. Do not be tempted to do anything else with it other than do that. So super
Yeah.
important.
And I even went to like the level when I was, struggling with money. I went to the level of like, what specifically are these emergency fund dollars for? And
Mhm.
I think that it's better to do that and come up with like the three most likely emergency scenarios that are likely to happen to you. I
Mhm.
had brothers who like snowboarding, and
Mhm.
snowboarding is dangerous. So I actually calculated out how much it would cost if I had to go to Seattle, Washington,
Mhm.
because that was like they would take you there because in Montana, like we don't have like lots of big hospitals or anything. So I
Mhm.
was like, okay, in this specific scenario, if this happened, I would want to be there for him or for them. And so how much would it cost for me to go there for a week? And that was like
Mm-hmm.
my base starting emergency fund.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would build on top of that for like less serious scenarios and have different funds for different things. But I think having like specific emotional reasons why you're keeping those specific dollars is really helpful for not touching it as well.
Okay, yeah, no, I think that's really good because once again, it helps with the framework, saying that, hey, you know what, this is what I'm using this money for. You know, where this that, if something happens to my family, I'm going to use it. If something happens for a repair of my vehicle, I need it. If the furnace in my house goes out, I'm going to use it. So these are things that I can engage these funds as far as using them and not feel bad about it and know that I'm using it for the appropriate thing. So I think that's a great point.
Yeah.
Um, One thing you mentioned, kind of when we started talking rocks, is that you were 91%
Hmm.
on your way. And you also mentioned that, money, money is a tool for you, really. So I guess my question is, as far as what do you foresee? And the reason why I'm asking this is because two things kind of strike me about you. One is that you say you're a saver. And the second thing is that you really don't have these uber, rich aspirations that, hey, you know what, I'm okay. I feel the same way. And so I know of being a saver my entire life. And once I retired, I now it's and I've heard other people talk about it. I guess you really don't experience it till you start to go through it of like flipping a switch from being a saver to a spender. And so I guess my question to you is, have you thought about kind of when it's time to flip the switch? The second thing is, have you thought about what you're going to do with this additional time that you're going to have once we go from 91% up to 100%?
Mm. The switch has flipped.
Okay, the flip switch.
The switch flipped a long time ago.
Okay.
I have way, way exceeded my expectations for my life. Like, I feel like I accomplished the one goal I set out to, which,
Hmm.
yeah, I did not plan on being wealthy. Like, that was not a goal of mine.
Hmm.
Um, I wanted to be secure. I wanted to have money, that I needed so that way I didn't have to like be paycheck to paycheck, stressed about debt or losing a house. I wanted to be debt free.
Hmm.
But yeah, I accomplished that. I was like, I mean, maybe 25 years old.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And yeah, and so that was right after I bought the house in cash with my ex-husband. And
Hmm.
so ever since that point, so for the last, I don't know how long ever that has been, since 2014. Um, so ever since then, the switch has been flipped.
Hmm.
I feel very comfortable, and net worth has continued to go up just because I happen to have good savings habits. And, I've taken the work of finding ways to save money that I actually enjoy. So it hasn't been any burden to keep up those like savings habits. Um,
Hmm.
but I mean, I like spending before, I like spending now. Yeah, I'm not sure if I've answered your question.
No, it's okay. So you're okay. You don't have that because I know for me, I have a challenge around. I've gotten better about spending, but it is. I'm still my default is to save. So I try to do that. And so I guess with that being said, the next portion of your journey, do you see yourself just continuing to do more of what you're doing now? Do you see yourself maybe doing more traveling, volunteering? What exactly do you see like kind of this next phase for you?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I was a digital nomad for a year and a half.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
sold the house in Montana and did that for a year and a half with my dog and my ex-husband. So kind of
Okay.
all around the US. So I feel like I've traveled a lot.
Hmm.
Yeah, since I am not quite FI, it was kind of more of a symptom of like choosing a higher cost of living area. So
Hmm.
like expenses tend to be higher here in Colorado. I could be FI somewhere else already, but
Okay.
um, so yeah, I might go back to work for a few years just because, like I said, I've just been doing the coaching part-time for the last 5 years and did some traveling already. So
Hmm.
yeah, maybe like get to like a comfortable FI number, like solid, because yeah, haven't gone through the divorce. I'm still like mourning the loss of half my net worth.
Oh, I
Um,
understand.
so, it's a weird situation to be in because it's like, oh yeah, I feel comfortable, I have plenty of money, but it's still like not quite enough to cover everything. So,
Mm,
and then,
okay.
I kind of miss the structure of work as well, like
Hmm.
having coworkers and a boss, and I
Hmm.
enjoyed the work that I did. So,
Yeah, I am. One of the things, friend of mine, I met him at a campfire, and he had other people kind of mention this, but he really drove it home as far as like, hey, you always got to have something to retire to. And so even leading up to the time when I got ready to stop, I dated a lot of things. As far as like, okay, do I want to learn how to, do I want to learn Spanish? Do I want to do this? So I was like, I just kind of worked with a lot of different things. Who do I want to volunteer with as far as organizations and things like that? And it really helped me to try to figure out where I wanted to be in this phase that I'm in now. And one of the things I realized is that I like being around people, and this kind of goes back to what you're saying about the structure and things like that. I enjoy interacting with people. I like being a servant to, things like that. So I find myself where I'm doing a lot of volunteer work where I'm out in the community, where I can do stuff like that. And it scratches my itch as far as like, having that structure, being able to meet people and things of that nature. And also other things, I know I like money. So one of the things I was telling my wife is that I'm going to start pursuing next year I want to do my accredited financial counselor certification, but I think I'm going to go ahead and do my certified financial planner. I think I'm going to do the
mm,
CFP. So I think that's something I'm going to just kind of go into next year as well, just because, I want to continue to expand my knowledge and things like that. But I have the time to do it now and I can really focus on it. So I'm really excited about that.
yeah.
A couple other things before we land the plane, rocks. Um, I will see. I'm trying to figure out how I want to order these. So I'm going to ask you this one first. I I heard you say, so I technically heard that you are also somewhat of a comedian of
Y-
sorts,
Yes, yeah,
correct?
stand up.
Yes. So where did you go? And this is what's interesting to me. I'm by default, I'm an introvert. And I think I can be witty in conversations with people, but I don't think I can just go and like stand on the stage and just like intentionally try to be funny. And so I guess my question to you is, what brought this along? And do you see yourself doing that, more in the future, or how did this come about?
Yeah. I actually just heard a comedian say the other day, I can't remember who it was, but he said, show me somebody whose parents are depressed and I'll show you a child who's funny. Uh, I think that humor and comedy,
Hmm.
it can be a coping mechanism for people
Hmm.
to, kind of find a way through the world. And um, I've always like, I don't know. I think my family's kind of funny, and I think that I like maybe like tried to be funny as a young kid. And I really realized when I was an accountant that I am in fact funnier than quite a few people.
Okay.
No shade on them. They are wonderful,
Uh-huh.
but definitely not quite as funny as me. And
Okay.
so, yeah, I thought that it would be a fun hobby. And I've
Okay.
been absolutely right about that. And it is, I actually recommend it because it's a great frugal hobby. It doesn't cost anything to sit down and try and write jokes.
Hmm.
Open mic nights where you can go and do stand up are free.
Okay.
And yeah, it's a really fun hobby. And they say that people learn better when the content is funny. Like you're more likely to remember things if they were in a funny context. And so I'm trying to blend like humor and accounting and my like coaching stuff. One of my goals is to write the dirtiest accounting joke of all time.
Okay. Has it been written, or is it still are you still working on it?
Well, I have a contender, but I did just see a joke the other day that might just on the internet that might be dirtier. So
Oh, wow. Okay. I got you. So,
it's
so,
a
so it's
work in
still a work in
progress.
progress. I got you. Okay. That sounds good. Well,
Yeah.
that's definitely interesting. Now, one other thing I want to ask you is about, someone they're struggling. So I'm going to, I guess, ask you to put back on your coaching hat. So if there was one thing you could tell someone who was struggling financially, what would it be? So just anything goes. What would that be, that one thing?
Yeah. I think that setting your expectations for like going into the journey of like paying off debt is really important. Like
Hmm.
I kind of alluded to earlier, like I'm going to do whatever it takes for the next 50 years.
Hmm.
I think having some kind of statement like that to like kind of like latch on to and I don't know. It's almost like tapping into like your anger right?
Hmm.
Like anger, the purpose of anger in our bodies is to like spur action, right?
Hmm.
So kind of getting into that place of like, I'm not gonna do this anymore. I'm not gonna let my life be like this.
Hmm.
Um, and realizing that that is gonna come at a cost. Like,
Hmm.
um, things are gonna get worse before they get better if you're struggling right now. Like just by definition, they have to. However little you're spending, you're going to have to spend less. However much you're working, you're going to have to work more. Like, I think having that mindset really helped me like manage the psychology of it. Cause then it was
Hmm.
like, yeah, things happen, but I'm going to just keep working on it. Um,
Hmm.
and, I think that maybe this is not correct, but I kind of have a theory that like work smarter, not harder
Hmm.
is like a thing rich people say to other rich people. Like, not everyone has the privilege to work smarter, not harder. Like you're
Right.
probably going to have to work smarter and harder. So,
Yeah, that's true.
unfortunately, I think that's the way it goes.
Yeah, no, sometimes, I tell people, especially when they don't have the funds, sometimes I tell them like sometimes it take hustle and muscle. So that's you got
Hmm.
to do, sometimes you don't have that luxury of being able, like you say, work smarter. Sometimes you're going to just have to be after it and be willing to do that. So that is some great advice. And as we wrap up here, Rox, where can individuals follow you to continue to follow your journey and also to get this information that they can use on theirs?
Yeah. So my YouTube channel name is Finance Rox. So ROX, short for Roxanne, and there's no space in there, Finance Rox. And I'm on everything at Finance Rox, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, X, LinkedIn. I'm literally everywhere at Finance Rox. So
Mastodon everywhere. Uh,
I actually don't know what that is.
oh yeah, yeah, Mastodon.
Mastodon.
Yeah. Yeah, Mastodon is kind of like a way if you like kind of set up your own kind of like platform for like social media. That a lot of
Okay.
tech nerds do Mastodon. They set up like their own
Okay.
instance of it. So yeah, so
I'm
absolutely.
nearly everywhere at Finance Rox.
Okay, I got you. All right, that's cool. Well, I want to thank you for giving us, sharing your story with us, and giving us the information that we can leverage in our journeys to, first of all, get some of these beneficial habits that we can all use to be able to be financially independent. So, thank you very much for that, Rox. In closing, I want to thank you all for joining us here on this episode. As always, my name is Nik Johnson, and I'm going to remind you to trust the process. Have a great day.